Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up this week's theme of women's history and celebration with Sleater-Kinney, which is another group that I've sort of known about. I recognize the artist name, but not one that I think I've listened to at all. We're going to be diving into something off of their 2005 album, The Woods. The track in question is Entertain. Let's see what's going on with Sleater-Kinney. Nice, like indie rock fuzz going on here, chord progression, tom and snare based drum pattern. We have a shaker over here now, that's a new shift. And some drone also. Interesting. Up the guitar. Interesting harmonic choices. All right. It's kind of tough to dig into something like this, given that it's musically very surface level, very directed. It has its idea of what it wants to do, and it does that one idea very well for a long bit of time. The verse and the chorus, the guitars and bass pretty much work together to just provide chord progression. We hear a little bit more guitar movement in the second chorus, moving into the extended bridge, which we do see a bit more melodic guitar riffage going on in there, but that's at the reduction of pretty much everything else, just going for that dum 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 digga digga dum 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 rhythm that just continues on for several minutes. I guess several is it's 2 minutes. It's like a minute and a half or so. Um, but yeah, everything else simplifies where the guitar picks up and gets a little bit more complexity to it. We do get the layered vocals there, which is nice, but I mean that's the song right there. It's a lot of chord progression, a lot of straightforward rhythmic ideas, and loud. And so, like I said, it's kind of tough to turn a critical ear to it because I mean, at the end of the day, this is a punk track, right? I think I kind of labeled it as indie rock at the beginning, but by the end of the song, I think punk is the way to go about talking about it. Primarily because of all of the we don't care, we're going to do what we want kind of things as far as performance go. And this is what really stands out to me a lot here. When we look at the two guitar solos, the first one has what sounds to me like a bunch of flubs. Now, they could be completely intentional, it could be designed to sound that way, but there are certainly. We have a consistent rhythm going on and a consistent direction, and we tend to be working with just the next note in the chord, whether that's a whole step or a half step away from the last note we played. And there are times when we just don't get a note on a beat. Instead, we get almost sounding like a palm mute. You get a little bit of the rhythmic sound out of it, but you don't get the pitch out of it. Almost as if there was a mistake made. You know, the left hand and right hand weren't quite in time with things, and we strummed before we actually had the pressure on the string at the right fret. That's what it sounds like. That's why I call it a flub. It's a small mistake, but obviously it wasn't a mistake, at least not at the end of the day. They released this song like this. It is intentional in some way. And of course, the note that comes after that is what I would have expected if we had played that note that I expected that they didn't deliver on. So we have elements like that in the guitars that just kind of feel like, whatever, man, we're playing music, we're playing rock, we're just enjoying this. But then during the second guitar solo, I mentioned that there's some interesting harmonic choices in there. Many of the notes that are picked around the middle of it, and it's several back-to-back notes, just feel like they're odd choices. They clash against the chord progression. They're outside of the key, but not used in a way to add spice. We just kind of revel in this. Let's choose let's color outside the lines for a couple of bars. And it doesn't really feel like it's complementary to it. You can certainly draw outside the lines in complementary ways, and I don't really get that here. It just seems to be odd, clashing, dissonant choice of notes for the sake of having dissonant notes there, more so than trying to add a specific flavor or color from outside of the key. Those are two ways that I hear it in the guitar work, but you can hear it in the vocals too. At the end of the song, there are multiple sections when the vocalist counts 1, 2, 3 during the bridge, and it's rushing ahead of what the drums are playing. And the drums are giving the backbeat of this. The entire thing on the toms is just laying down this pulse on every single beat. You can't get away from that. There's no polyrhythm to dance around. The drums are giving you the exact moment, and they're pretty consistent too. So for the vocalists to get a little loose with their time and to come in a little early, it's very punk of them, isn't it? There's also a lot of vocal delivery stuff in here that's very, again, punk, very whatever. We're just going to do it our way kind of thing regarding breaths, shortness of attacks. I guess we could kind of fall it under or categorize it under like a pitchiness, a sort of intonation going on here, where the exact pitch being hit isn't wrong, but it also isn't right. It's sort of just there. And so it's sort of like the guitar where the note choices are a bit unusual for what's going on at the moment. And there's all sorts of very fun vocal deliveries as far as cutting off notes short of, especially on the 1, 2, 3. They're very bop, 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 very short staccato tones. 1 and 2 tend to be a bit higher up. 3 is brought down, I'd say 60% of an octave or so. Tends to be a bit more fuller body, fuller sound, but also having a little bit more width to it in length as well. And it's little things like these that give the song a lot of characteristic while kind of going outside the realms of typical singing. And much like the guitarist kind of goes outside the realms of typical guitar work, including and keeping what sounds to me like mistakes, keeping them in the final recording, we have a lot of these unusual and no, we'll just stick with unusual vocal deliveries on this song. That, again, it screams very punk to me. They don't care what it sounds like. It is them. It is a sonic representation of who they are, how they're feeling at the moment. And it is very true and passionate and authentic to them. And to me, that's what punk is. It's loud, it's abrasive, it's authentic. And this song comes off very much that definition right there. Now, the loud and abrasive part does come through not just in the performance, but also in the production of all of this. The guitars are loud, particularly the left guitar feels very blown out, very garage band. It sounds, what's the word? Not cheap, but just low budget might be a term for it. And again, like I've said many times, you can aim for this stuff with some really expensive gear too. It doesn't necessarily need to be a lower budget amplifier or cabinet in order to achieve this sound, but it is the sound that they've landed on. But there is a ton of fuzz and distortion on this song in its entirety, and I think it's interesting to hear that compared to the vocals, which tend to be a bit thinner. What I find interesting here is that the vocals sound like they're frequently single-tracked. It has enough power behind it, enough delivery that it doesn't get lost in the mix, but it lacks that larger-than-life sound. I'd even say that there's very minimal reverb on it. And you may not even notice it, but reverb is used on so much vocal work to a point that I think most people won't even recognize that there is reverb in some of the lesser used songs. Here I don't hear any at all, though. And I just find that to be a very interesting contrast. It feels like there's just enough EQing on it to keep it balanced well, to mix it well with the rest of the instruments, and that's about it. There's no other production put on the vocals, and so it feels very stark contrast to the guitars, which are massively produced. Lots of distortion and compression and overdrive and all the stuff that goes into crafting a guitar tone. And it ends up working. I think there's enough passion and anger in the vocal delivery to make up for and to align itself with the production of the guitars. And it ends up working much better than I would have expected. If you had written this down on paper and just described this to me, like borderline underproduced vocals against way produced guitar stuff, like indie noisy guitar tones, I'm like, no, that's never going to work. But they pull it off with ease, with finesse. It sounds like this is the way it was always supposed to sound. So huge props to the production here. Everything there works beautifully. And I guess that's gonna wrap this one up. I wish there was something else I could bring up, but I mean, when we talk about structure, We got verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. I think there is a third verse, chorus before you hit the bridge on it, but honestly, it's a small variation on the norm there. A lot of the song is atmospheric and texture and chord based, not a lot of riffage going on. The melodies that we do get from the vocals, I wouldn't necessarily say are catchy. I don't think they're designed to be catchy or, well, I was going to say or earworms, but I do think that this song is infectious. There is something about that bridge that I think is going to be stuck in my mind for a while, even though I couldn't recite the words or anything like that. Just something about the simplicity of it and the repetition is just bound to get stuck in your mind. So it is an earworm, even though I wouldn't call it catchy. I find that to be interesting. But it is, at the end of the day, what sounds to me like an angry punk track with a little bit of an indie rock leaning as far as tone goes, more so than like a hardcore punk sound. It ends up working rather well, even if there's not a lot of meat to gnaw on here as far as critical analysis. That doesn't make it a bad song. Just makes it one that I think is more suited for casual listening. Let me dive into some lyrics here and see what's going on there. So, okay, yeah, this is a sort of a punk anthem right here. Lyrically, it's about opposing nostalgia and opposing pure entertainment music, that you should be looking for passion and authenticity and art when you consume media. It says, you come around looking 1984, and you're such a bore using nostalgia like a whore. It's better now than before. This idea that you are trying to sell the idea of nostalgia rather than actually trying to create something new. It says you come around sounding 1972. Now I actually don't know what's up with these years. What is important about 1984 and 1972? I'm going to assume particularly in the realm of music. Were there sounds created at that time, or I suppose in those times, that were widely used even up until the creation of this song? But he says that you come around sounding like 1972, but you did nothing new with the 1972. You're just bringing the sound back. You're not doing anything interesting with it. In the bridge, it says we can drown in mediocrity, and it feels sublime. It feels like someone pushed rewind. So give it to me easily. My feeble mind needs time. Make it sweet and syrupy with rhyme. So the idea here, like I mentioned, is that they are trying to fight back against this idea of bringing what was old and making it new again, and trying to wrap it in nostalgia and using that as the core focus to sell something. Not trying to create something new, but literally bringing something back that was old and trying to make people want it simply because, hey, don't you remember this? And they're very much against it. The chorus says, if your art is done, Johnny, get your gun, join the rank, and file on your TV dial. So basically, saying that if you have nothing left to contribute with your artwork, all you have left to do is join the mindless masses. Turn the TV on and let it tell you what's up. Let it tell you your opinion. Let it tell you what is new and interesting these days. All for the sake of entertainment. As long as you feel entertained, that's all that matters, right? It doesn't matter if it's real, doesn't matter if it's new, doesn't matter if it's authentic. As long as you're entertained, that's all that matters. And nostalgia does a pretty good job of entertaining. That's what this song is. It's an anti-weaponized nostalgia song. Very interesting, both in its lyrics, but also how it's still semi-relevant 2 decades later. Those are my thoughts. Sleater-Kinney's Entertain from The Woods. What do you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own interpretation of things. Please put all of that and any other thoughts you have down into the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.